Welcome back to the Grab Some Popcorn podcast. Your host, Jared and Emmanuel, here to bring you movie news, movie reviews, and all around movie topic. Like, subscribe, and comment on whichever platform you're listening to this episode on, and be sure to check out previous episodes if you're listening for the first time. Episode 10. Here we are. We're back, Emmanuel.
We're back.
10th episode. We've been doing this thing for a little while now. I feel like we've come a long way since episode 1.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely, buddy. Glad to have you here. Thanks for doing this with me. We just went to go see The Smashing Machine. That's going to be our review for today. And it's the 2025 biographical sports drama written, directed, co-produced, and edited by Benny Safdie. Wow, he's doing a lot on this. Gonna get a lot of ROI for sure. Definitely gonna get a lot of return. And it starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as MMA legend Mark Kerr, and it also has Emily Blunt. She's playing Dawn Staples. That was his wife. And in The Smashing Machine, we follow Kerr's meteoric rise in the early days of mixed martial arts and the UFC, while wrestling with the physical, emotional, and addictive tolls that success brings.
Yes, sir.
All right, so first impressions of this Emmanuel movie. Give it to me. What'd you think?
First impressions. Okay. First impressions. So I'm watching the movie, and, I say the first impression is like the first 30 minutes. And so I could see that, I see that the main character, he's an emotional guy. I'm not saying emotional, like, he's so focused, and he's such a, focused fighter that he can't let emotion into his life because it might cost him the win. So he's that much of a competitive spirit. He's a big emotional guy, meaning he doesn't allow emotion, which causes conflict in his life. And so the story kind of, really, kind of story goes kind of deep, gets really real. That was my first impressions.
Wow, that's good. And that's a very good thing to point out, that he's not letting emotion into his life because it could cost him. And I think that was a great point. Something that we're going to go back to for sure. Yeah, my first impressions of this movie, I thought it was good for sure. I enjoyed it. It starts off intense. It puts us right into the heat of a fight that not only is Mark winning, but he completely obliterated the opponent. I mean, very graphic fight. He's beating him up. The guy didn't really have any chance at all. And the whole, in the beginning of the movie, he's definitely playing this like very unstoppable like fighter. He's in top peak, like peak physique, physicality is.
Yeah, I think they said he was like 14-0, which means he had 14 fights. He won all of them and lost 0. Like, he's on a streak. Like, that's a huge streak in the world of MMA, 14-0. That's like a title shot to be champion of the world.
And he looked a lot bigger than the people he was fighting. I mean, regardless, he's still fighting professionals, but he just looked like someone very like you would not want to fight this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a very
professional setting. Like, you wouldn't want to fight this dude. He was huge. And, yeah, so they build the character up like that as, like you said, 14-0. He looks unstoppable. He's all about winning. And then, like, as the movie goes on, like, you find out he's a drug addict. He's abusing pain medicine. His girlfriend is a party girl.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't mix very well for the character. So you see, like, his ego is all about winning, and he gets the high from winning, but he's also getting a high from the pain medicines that he's using. And that's like, once this is like unrevealed in the story, then he gets his first loss. And this is where the movie like kind of took a shift for me, because like, even though it was he was a fighter, it starts to really focus on the drama that's going on. He's abusing drugs. His girl's going out, partying, drinking. She's taking pain meds in the morning. it's like she kind of just latched on at what he was doing in her own little way. And then you have like, these two uh people who are battling an addiction, living with each other, but also like this guy's a fighter and he's trying to he's trying to come back after the first loss. So
Hmm.
after all that, what goes on? So he has that going on, and ultimately it just makes me think about like how you were saying, um, he doesn't let emotion into his life, right? And he starts to let the emotion into his life, and you can see how it's like affecting him.
He starts losing. You can clearly see in the story how as soon as like at first when he was winning, he was completely focused 100%. He didn't even let emotion. He didn't let, you know what I mean? He was just so focused. He didn't let anything in. He was just focused on winning. And as soon as, the girlfriend drama happened, as soon as he took a pretty bad beating, 14 fights. You take a lot of punches, you take a lot of knees to the head. So he started doing some of those pain meds to be able to continue training and fighting. And you can see those pain meds, fighting with this girl, they take a toll on you no matter how focused you are. And he lost the fight. He lost the
Clear.
fight.
And eventually he goes into rehab and he comes out and he's sober, but he still has the woman in his life that he had while he was addicted. And I think that was like a huge mistake for him. And it kind of shows in the movie for sure. Like especially towards the end when he loses the fight. But yeah, so let's go on to the emotional impact of the movie. How did this movie impact you emotionally, Emmanuel?
Oh, emotionally, it did great. Emotionally, man, like it was, had a huge twist in the end. You can see the drama, you can see the pain, you can see the whole relationship drama. You can see, it's just got this slight dark to it. It's got the slight grimy to it. And when you think Emily Blunt, you don't think like dark and grimy type of mood. When you think Dwayne Johnson, you don't really think dark and grimy. You think more action packed and like,
Honestly, I think the dark aspect that was added, I think that had a lot to do with A24 because a lot of their movies, I don't know if you see a lot of A24 movies, but they definitely have a lot of dark horror movies for sure with some dark plot. They had the Bring Her Back movie from them earlier this year, and the plot was pretty dark. Like mother was trying to bring her kid back from the dead, and it was a wild movie. But either way, yeah, their movies are a lot like that. So
yeah, like but when I say dark, I don't mean like horror. I mean like this one, you had
no, yeah, it had the tone.
the drug elements, you had the relationship drama, you had the trainer guy, everyone injuries, everyone going through pain, rehab. It had all of that in there. Like most fight movies, they just show you like the fights and the cool parties. This movie had a lot. So when you ask like what was the emotional on it, it's saying
For
yeah, they bring the emotion, so no doubt on that.
no, I definitely think that is on behalf of A24. Like they do a good job with that. For me, I think this movie had a big emotional impact for sure. And a lot of it is facilitated by the performances from The Rock and Emily Blunt. As you just said, like they gave great performances and went, like, you know, as far as their range in the movie, like you definitely weren't expecting that from them.
No, not at all from them.
And you see like these two people with addictive personalities in a relationship both fighting their addiction and fighting to maintain their relationship at the same time, so it makes for a lot of drama. I like the fact that even though they got into some intense moments, like he never got physical with her. I thought that was great because I know like a lot of athletes, especially ones that are like, I mean, athletes in general are athletic, they train, but someone who's a fighter, they might train even harder. They might use some boost or whatever. But just dudes like that, like usually get a bad rep when it comes with women because, they get the bad rep that they might get physical or beat them. So I thought it was great that that never happened during the entire movie. Definitely for sure. Unique factor. I didn't think anything was too unique about this movie. Just a classic redemption story. And I thought it was really cool to see the real guy at the end of the movie. And then they had pictures showing during the credit. Was there anything unique for this movie for you, Emmanuel?
I mean, unique. I mean, it did have some points for uniqueness because, like I said, it touched upon all those, like, had kind of that little bit darker tone instead of like an intense, fight night action type of tone. It had more of that dark, like, the dark tone, the dark relationships, the dark, the using of the painkillers. It's just a really came out really real, and so that's really the uniqueness is that when you see a fight movie, they did it a little bit different, a little bit more unique. I'm not saying it was like I've never seen something like that before, but they do get some points for uniqueness.
All right, I feel you. Yeah, it was heavy on the drama. It was heavy on the drama for sure. And that was one of my issues with the movie. I felt like more of a drama than a fight movie, but the performances were, really good from both. I mean, The Rock was unrecognizable. You didn't even know that was The Rock. So I think the performances and the look of The Rock, like he really got into the character and the role. It really got me invested in the movie for sure. Did you have any issues with it?
I mean, my only issue, because people love nitpicking, so I'm gonna nitpick on something. And the only thing it lost points for me on, like the performances were great. The story got kind of dark, which I'm I had no problem with. That wasn't what deducted points to me. Is it had a lot of fights in there? Like there was a good amount of fight, but I was really hoping to see, like, you know what I mean? Like I was hoping to see some real intricate camera work in the fights. I was hoping to see some real close-ups. I was hoping to see some, like, a good couple of brawls. Most of the time they went in, they showed a couple of throws, a couple of punches.
Mm.
They showed they were fighting, but I was looking for that real intricate, real close-up, real like strategic, technical fighting element to it. And it focused, I think, more on like, the emotion, the drama, the story, kind of like it focused in more on the emotional, dramatic side of it and less on the technical aspects of, the fight, which is what I would have wanted to see. So it lost points for me on there because I'm the fight fan. I wanted to see really awesome fight. That was
Yeah, most definitely. Uh, for score, I would give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. Great performances, but nothing that's gonna like transcend the sports drama genre. I would definitely recommend this movie if you're into the story or familiar with it or a fan of boxing itself. But just prepare yourself for the drama in the movie because that is a lot of the movie. I think there's a lot to take away from the movie for sure with the whole drug abuse going on. And for me, it was just if you want to be clean, then go clean all the way. He mentioned like at one point in the movie when they were arguing after he had gotten sober, how hard it was for him to like maintain his sobriety with this girl still around. Cause like I said before, she's going out, late night drinking with her friends and she's taking pain pills like Tylenol and stuff in the morning. And the pain medicine is what he was like originally abusing, the opioids and stuff. So I can imagine how hard it was for him to stay sober with that type of activity around. And I think, it would have been better for him to have just left this girl because ultimately him letting those emotions in and having those feelings and caring about her. And she had a whole episode right before he was supposed to go away for the big fight is what got him the L in that fight. When he was frozen up, what was he thinking about? He was thinking about stuff with his girl. He's probably worried about her and her being, in wherever she was at in the rehab. I think that really, got to him for sure. And it cost him the match. I mean, at the end, it said that they reunited and they got married and had a kid, and that's great. I guess life just has a way of working out. But just for the movie's sake, I'm saying I think he would have won that fight if he wasn't so emotionally invested with this girl, especially after getting clean. I think if you're going to be clean, then, go all the way. You got to get rid of the people that you were hanging out with while you weren't sober. And unfortunately, one of those people was his girl. What about you, Sarah? What is your score and recommendation?
Yeah, I definitely think one of the key takeaways from the movie was that, if you can block out all emotion and focus on winning, that's the only way to become a champion in that league, in the fight league. And then one little drama with your girl or one little alcoholic binge or, one thing like that, it's at a league that operates at such a high level can cost you like that. That's what it shows. It shows that little argument with this girl and bam, you could lose everything. That's what I think was the key takeaway. Anyways, um, that was like the key takeaway, but um, I think the score that I'd give the movie, I want to give it a solid 7.9 out of 10. It's I would have liked to see some more intricate camera work on the fight scenes. I would have liked, it doesn't have to be every single fight to be like an intricate, super, well thought out, choreographed, super fight scene, but at least have like a good handful of those in there. It seemed like they did some very basic stuff with the fights and focused in mostly on like, the story, which isn't a bad thing. It's just not the direction that, if I was producing, directing, or doing the camera work, I would have made sure to get in some like super, super good fights, like the type that fight fans would have just walked out of it and been like, yeah, that was awesome. And I don't think I quite saw that. So I give it a solid 7.9. And
Would
that's
you recommend it?
oh yeah, definitely see it. It's not like it's not. There's good fights. There's good emotion. You see some really real stuff. Not bad at all. Definitely see it. Definitely see it. I'm a super picky, super technical fight fan, and so I would have wanted to see something extraordinarily extravagant as far as the fight. To get an A or a 10 or a 9 out of me for a fight movie. You know what I mean? I got to walk out of there, about to go to Fight Club and start. Like, I want to be really crunk. And I don't think it got me all the way there.
Got it. All right. Excellent, man. Well, y'all be sure to check out The Smashing Machine for sure. Go check it out in the theater, stream it at home, and let us know what you think. Be sure to let us know what you thought of this episode. That's all for this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you go see The Smashing Machine. Stick around. We've got a new segment for the show coming up called Standalones. We're going to start doing solo movie reviews real quick. I'm putting it at the end of this episode, but it also will get its own post as well. So stick around and be sure to check that out. And thanks for listening. Have a great day. Welcome to Standalone, our solo movie reviews. Here at the Grab Some Popcorn podcast, we love talking movies, but sometimes we don't always love the same movies. That's why we started Standalone, a space to share our individual takes. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this solo breakdown. What if the creepiest part of The Strangers Chapter 2 isn't the mask, but learning who's behind them? This time the chase runs so long, the strangers stop being scary and start feeling strangely familiar. Today we're diving into The Strangers Chapter 2, directed by Rennie Harlan and starring Madeleine Petsch, with Gabriel Basso and Emma Horvath rounding out the cast. In this sequel, Madeleine plays Maya, the lone survivor from the first chapter. She wakes up in a hospital only to realize her nightmare isn't over. The masked killers are back, and she's forced into another relentless night of paranoia and survival. But this time, the film starts peeling back the curtain on who these strangers really are. So my first impressions of this movie, the movie picks up right where Strangers Chapter 1 left off. Maya, she barely survived the first encounter with them at the house. She wakes up in the hospital. You see that at the end of the first one. And of course, since this is a sequel, horror slasher, It starts off pretty calm, but we know that's not going to last for too long. So there's a tense diner scene early on in the movie that tries to build some suspense, but it's pretty obvious someone in the room isn't who they seem to be. And honestly, the movie's predictability isn't shy. You'll probably have it all figured out within the first 30 minutes of the movie, like I did. So once the killers invade the hospital, things start to get weird. The hospital is pretty empty for it to be a hospital. You know, there's patients there, people coming and going, people that are there, people that work there. And it seems like it's pretty empty once the killers start to go after Maya until, of course, the plot needs someone to pop up right when the, killer is about to find her. One of the janitors pops into the room out of nowhere and his death takes place, which will allow the killer to leave the room and, of course, Maya to escape. This was the first attempt where they were really close, pretty close to killing Maya. And, the killer actually looks Maya right in the eyes. She's hiding inside the drawers. She's inside the morgue part of the hospital, and she's in the drawers where they keep the dead bodies. And they pretty much lock eyes with each other. But somehow, she gets away. And as the movie progresses, there becomes a hint that the sheriff in the town might be involved. But before that information can even go anywhere, the person who's telling Maya gets killed immediately. And that's kind of like a theme in this movie. Characters show up, they serve a single purpose, and then they just die fast. As the movie progresses, it's just like a really long chase. She ends up in some woods, and there's a wild boar scene. I wasn't expecting this scene. The scene is about strangers who were going after a person, and somehow it turns into like some crazy animal horror movie where she's getting attacked by a CGI boar. And it's not that the scene is bad or anything, but it just seems completely random and out of nowhere. And yeah, a defining moment for this movie. I would say the defining moment of this movie comes when it is revealed that one of the killers, named Pinup Girl, is actually Shelly. She is the waitress and the diner that is like the focal point of the town. And, it's a solid twist in the movie for sure. It's giving the killers a bit of purpose and emotional weight that the first movie never explored. But this reveal is exactly what keeps the movie from being great. Now, if we look at how this works, what keeps the movie from greatness, is the need to give the killers depth and emotion. During the movie, we start getting these random flashbacks of Pinup Girl, also known as Shelly, the waitress. This is like when she's a very young girl, probably maybe in elementary school. She befriends a boy, and there are some mean girls at the school who are jealous of her, and at least that's what it appears to be. And she like steals the attention away from the young boy, and he starts hanging out with her, and you can see them like doing some weird ritual where they knock on the door and they say, "Is Tamara home?" And I think that's kind of like that was in the original movie. They would knock on the door and say, "Is Tamara home?" And the movie is trying to like give a reason behind this. It's showing you like this is why that they do this. It started off as like a little game that they played when they were younger, but eventually, while playing the game, the girl that stole the boy's attention comes out and gives him a kiss. And Shelly, the pinup girl, as a young girl, she sees this and does not like it at all. So she ends up killing the girl. And like nobody is fazed by this, not her or the young boy that just witnessed it. So the movie is trying to convey in these flashbacks that Shelly and the young boy grew up together and they became the strangers. And this is like why they're doing what they're doing. And I feel like It's such a bizarre and unnecessary backstory because what made the original Strangers so effective was that they were strangers. There was no motive, there was no history, just pure terror, some people in a mask coming to do a home invasion and killing who's there for no reason other than them just being there. This whole adding a backstory really dilutes the purpose of the movie. And I get that, this movie is a trilogy. They've got 3 parts. So they kind of got to flesh it out. But I feel like they could have done more with the main characters and adding backstory to that and adding some more side story rather than trying to add a purpose and emotional depth to the killers. So a standout element in this movie, if there's one thing that really works in the Strangers chapters too, it's Madeline Pesh. For some reason, the movie, I would say she's not the reason the movie falls apart. She's the reason it actually stays watchable. She sells fear every time the tension ramps up, especially in the ambulance scene early on when she's picked up by the people that work in the hospital and she starts becoming suspicious of them being the killers and she completely breaks down and goes into a panic. Like you actually feel the panic during the scene and the disbelief, like she's genuinely trapped in a nightmare. So even though the script gives her very little to work with, she still manages to ground the chaos and make it feel real. Now, who this movie is for? This movie is for diehard slasher fans, people who love tension, the chase, and the mass killers lurking in the dark. Just don't expect too much actual slashing. It's more suspense than scares, and even that runs thin after a while. My hot take for this movie, uh, Strangers Chapter 2 is surprisingly calm. Most horror follow-ups, like most sequels, when there's a sequel to a horror movie, they go bigger. More blood, more bodies, higher stakes. And this one plays it safe. Honestly, I think this movie would have hit harder if Maya's family or friends showed up to check on her and got pulled into the chaos as well. Like, that would have really turned it up for this movie. But in all, my score for The Strangers Chapter 2 is an undercooked 3 out of 10. It's a long, drawn-out chase that builds up tension, but never truly pays off. Sure, there's a reveal at the end that tries to tie everything together, but the moment it lands, it steps on itself by forgetting what made the strangers terrifying in the first place. There's nothing wrong with wanting to evolve a franchise or bring something new to the table, but this one doesn't reinvent anything. It just reminds you why the original formula works so well. So like the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that'll be my review for Strangers Chapter 2, my standalone review. Hopefully you enjoyed it and be sure to look out for the next one.